Right back from a weekend that saw the Chabazinga and the Inebantu pick their wedding gift from the president, 100 cattle. And the same weekend that saw the Israel government threaten or vote to close down the local offices of Al Jazeera in the country. But not only that, the sanctions debate within the country continues, not only in mainstream media, but across social media here in Uganda. We now await to see what this week is having for us in the world of news. But also, not to forget, this is the same week where the Uganda's population census will be, and that means we are right into the census week. How ready are you and how prepared are you to be counted? Because this is the week. On Thursday, it will be census night. So that means Friday, we shall all be in conjunction with the Uganda Bureau of Statistics being counted, and we hope that all that goes to pass, and we do hope that that exercise will be highly followed by the Ugandans, or we do hope that the Ugandans will not shy away or run away from the fact that the government has to count us during the population census 2024. But here we are for a fresh new week, the very first week of its own in the month of May. And here we are as Good Morning Uganda to make sure that we inspire your mornings and to make sure that we give you news and information about so many things that have been making rounds across the country, away from the country, and well, of course, giving you a future projection of what we expect for a week like this one that has started with high energy. Speaking of high energy, we do have the return of Olive Monica Najuma, who is right back here to make sure that she inspires your morning, she lightens it up, and also to make sure that she gives you news and information that you would definitely be in need of. And for those who have been highly missing her, well, it is high time you welcome her back. A very good morning, Monica, and thank you for joining us once again.
Well, good morning, Jerome Paul. I'm really glad to be back. I'm happy to be home, actually. I really missed it. You never know what you have until when you don't have it. And it dawned on me that I actually missed the very early mornings. So I'm happy to be back on this day where in 1803, the rubber band, the first rubber band was patented. Can you imagine that?
Okay.
So this morning we are stretching it with the rubber band, or, you know, anything else that you're thinking. It's a fresh new day, the 6th of May, 2024. We are here to give you news and good conversations, of course, and of course, steer you into the beautiful week and into the beautiful day. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am happy to be here with you. And speaking of the census that Sonko mentioned, do you know that you're going to be answering over 180 questions? I wonder how much time that is going to take.
And of course, there's a lot of technology that has been encrypted within the entire process, but we await to see whether the enumerators will be very easy to go by. But well, for you as a Ugandan, over 100 questions, you have to be prepared for such an exercise.
That's extreme for me, but we will see. I wonder how many of those are, you know, given to, like, concerned with my life as a Ugandan, and how much time is going to be spent, because last time we checked were about 45 million people. As we speak today, we could be around 50. So how long does it take to answer? For instance, if you come to my family, you'll find that we are probably 5 people living there.
Now you can only imagine how many.
Yes.
Well, we wait to see how the government will come up to execute that. But remember that census is this week. 9th of May will be census night, and then the 10th of May will be the actual census day. And it will be a public holiday, by the way, so please take your time and be home so that the exercise does continue. But that aside, we have a fresh new week, and this new week starts up with local news, because lots of information has been making headlines from the local scene, and Olive Monica kicks it away with our very first report.
Yes, and we will start with the First Lady, who is applauding those that visited her regarding fighting for the natural family. She says the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Mrs. Janet Kataha Museveni, has commended delegates from the Second African Interparliamentary Conference on family values and sovereignty for standing up and speaking against anything that threatens the human family. With an 11-man delegation that paid a courtesy visit to the First Lady at the State House in Nakasero on the sidelines of the 3-day African Interparliamentary Conference in Entebbe. The team met the First Lady to update her on the proceedings and key messages from the conference. The conference was attended by speakers, deputy speakers, and heads of delegations from 20 countries. The conference was organized to bring together members of parliament and leaders from African countries to help them understand the activities and plans of some international organizations, particularly those concerning Africa. And well, moving on, focusing on courts, the Chief Justice Alphonse Owini Dolo has revealed the judiciary's move to extend the jurisdiction of magistrate courts to handle cases of over 50 million Uganda shillings. Chief Justice Dolo says this will address the prolonged challenges of case backlog in higher courts. This was said during the annual general meeting of Uganda Judicial Officers Association in Kampala, where Lady Justice Oliver Kazari Mukwaya was elected president of the association. And moving on, speaking matters ICT, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance has awarded ICT students that have developed quality digital solutions to solve agricultural challenges. While officiating the Agri-Tech Hackathon 2024 at the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Consolata Achayo, elaborated how these solutions will be used to monitor the quality of food production by farmers. And lastly, in our local news, the Minister of State for Trade, General Wilson Mbadi, has urged the trainees who have completed a course in ideological deepening and mindset change to utilize the knowledge acquired to uplift and support transformation in their respective areas. He states that the vision of the NRM has been achieved over the years, but what remains is to enable Ugandans to participate in building a better Uganda for all. Mbadi addressed 300 members who successfully completed the program designed by the Minister of ICT and National Guidance. Godfrey Kabyanga, the Minister of State for National Guidance, encouraged the participants to form groups to attract robust support from the government. Well, with that, we wrap up our local news. Now, I take you back to Jerome Paul Sonko.
And well, it's now time for me to check in with what is making headlines away from Uganda. And we start with making headlines away from Uganda. Almost started with the First Lady in Uganda in regards to the international news. We start off with Al Jazeera, where Israel's government has moved to shut down the operations of the Al Jazeera television network in the country and branding it a mouthpiece for Hamas. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the cabinet agreed to the closure while the war in Gaza is ongoing. Police raided the Qatari broadcaster's office at the Ambassador Hotel in Jerusalem on Sunday, as Al Jazeera claims it was a threat to Israel's security, a dangerous and a ridiculous lie. Now, the channel said it reserved the right to pursue every legal step moving forward, as Israel's communications minister Shalom Kahi said equipment had been taken in the raid. Now, a video posted by the minister on X shows police officers and inspectors from the ministry entering a hotel room. Now, also, we head south of the Americas as massive floods in Brazil's southern Rio Grande do Sul state have killed at least 75 people over the last 7 days, and another 103 were reported missing, local authorities have said. Now, the damage from the rains also forced more than 88,000 people from their homes, as state civil defense authorities said on Sunday. Approximately 16,000 took refuge in schools, gymnasiums, and other temporary shelters. The floods left a wake of devastation, including landslides. They also washed away roads and collapsed bridges across the state. The operators reported electricity and communication cuts, with more than 800,000 people are without a water supply, according to the Civil Defense, which cited figures from water company Kosan. And the devastation to which we are being subjected to is unprecedented, according to the state governor, Eduardo Leite, in a Sunday morning brief. He had previously said that the state will need a kind of Marshall Plan to be rebuilt for such a crisis. Now we return to the African continent because at least 42 people have died from a measles outbreak in a little more than a week in Nigeria's northeastern state of Adamawa. The state's health commissioner has revealed. Now, Felix Tagwami said on Friday that the measles outbreak had mostly affected 2 local government areas where nearly 200 suspected cases were identified. The measles vaccines have been released to those areas, and the field teams are containing the situation, according to news trending in Nigeria. Now, measles is a highly contagious airborne virus that mostly affects children under the age of 5. It can be prevented by 2 doses of vaccine, and also its early symptoms include high fever, cough, and a runny nose. It also often causes rashes and bumps all over the body of the patient. Now, more than 50 million measles deaths have been averted through vaccinations since 2000. That is according to the World Health Organization. Now, lastly, we speak matters climate change. When Ademola Adesina founded the startup to provide solar and battery-based power subscription packages to individuals and businesses in Nigeria in 2015, it was a lot harder to raise money than it is today. Now, more money is going to African climate startups, but huge funding gap continues to prevail because climate tech, which was new in Africa, the continent was a fledgling destination for venture capital money. There were fewer funders to approach and less money was available. And it also took a year of running around and scoring, and raising networks for an individual like Adesina was to raise his first amount, just under $1 million from VC firms and other sources. And everything was to him a learning experience. But the ecosystem has since changed, 9 years away, and Adesina's resource energy has raised about $30 million over the years, mostly from VC firms. Funding for climate tech startups in Africa from the private sector continues to grow, with businesses raising more than $3.4 billion since 2019. But there is still a long way to go, with the continent requiring $277 billion annually to meet its climate goals for 2030 in order to address climate change in a small time in Africa. And well, now we return on the African continent. We look at the front pages of the papers. I'll start off with the locals before Olive Monica takes us away from Uganda. Now, the New Vision is highlighting Uganda on alert as floods hit the East African community. Now, the experts predict more rain as Entebbe residents vacate Lake Victoria shoreline. Then President Museveni gives Chabazinga 100 cows, a pictorial of the Chabazinga and the Inebantu at State House with President Museveni and the First Lady. Now also, the cabinet has directed on civil servant contracts. More of that with the deterioration in the service delivery across different departments. The government is undertaking a study to review permanent and pensionable employment. Security, Chinese held over illegal sale of army uniforms. Read more details about that in the New Vision today. Then in matters corruption, 100 district land boards have been probed over corruption cases. And then the countdown to the census, 3 days to go, says the New Vision. How prepared are you as a Ugandan? Find out more in the New Vision today. Now, at the front page of the Daily Monitor this morning is that healthy living, learning to live with lupus. As also in the other news, ministry to probe school over prom, says official. Then government staff have 12 months to resign for 2026 polls, according to what is in there now as we are gearing up for 2026. In between the line is that government employees eyeing elective seats in 2026 polls have barely a year to leave their jobs if they are to comply with legal requirements to resign. For instance, 90 days before parliamentary nominations that the Electoral Commission has set for September next year. Now also, only buses and trucks won't pay fee on para route as the Karuma bridge has been closed down for the trucks and buses. Then regional, why leather factories in Jinja have closed. Also, tea farmers in tears over falling prices. Those are some of the stories making headlines at the front page of the Daily Monitor and bringing us to the end of our local press review.
Well, now we cross into the East African countries of Kenya and Tanzania, starting with the Daily Nation with Kalonzo Kenya Kwanza using AU carrot to gag us. And moving on, state plans to recover lost school days, that as according to the floods that have ravaged Kenya over the past couple of weeks. Now moving on, state 6 members of parliament nod to spend 10.6 billion shillings on flood crisis. Still in the Daily Nation. Now still in the courts of Kenya, bench to hear 6 cases against housing project. And also in conflict, Israel missiles pound Gaza amid peace talks. Now in matters crime, Interpol hunts Kenyan man wanted in Nigeria. You'll find more details regarding those stories in the Daily Nation. Now crossing over to Tanzania with the Citizen. The headline is Tanzania's rising economic powerhouses charge ahead. And we have more farms secure Zanzibar liquor permits, former importers still locked out. Now still in the Citizen, consider stocks, bonds in retirement plans, this according to experts. And also why Tanzanian troops will remain in Mozambique. Now, there is more in the Citizen. You just have to buy the paper and all the other papers that we've shared so that you dig deeper into the issues that the dailies have highlighted.
Well, Olive, there is an interesting report with the Daily Monitor today,
yes.
Talking about the ministry to probe school over prom.
That made me smile.
You know, and there's been a prom party that has been making rounds on social media following the fact that one of the students arrived in a chopper, and then the other students did arrive in a fleet of some good expensive rides in there. And I think many of the Ugandans were giving their own opinions about how extravagant the kids are. And many were wondering, is this prom or we are having you know, a Met Gala in Kampala, or is it the Oscars in Uganda?
So what I saw regarding the online discourse, it's that those that had a leavers party and Sosh, they are supposed to exit this conversation. This conversation is above our heads.
Indeed,
but I did see the Katikiro of Uganda saying that parents, this is an exorbitant show of bad manners, in the Katikiro's words. He said, parents are throwing money at their children, and in so doing that, we are showing them that it's not hard to work for money, because you can just waste it.
You can, oh, yeah, true.
Exactly, but that is his opinion. Now, if you ask for mine, people get children in different ways.
Very
some
true.
people have done IVFs that have failed. Some people have had so many struggles to have children.
Yes.
And probably for some of these, when they have the children are healthy, the children are smart.
Why not spend the money on them? Lots of conversations around the same topic, by the way, because you get to realize that many parents are willing to splash that money. And I'll tell you, if I was a parent in such situations, because of my childhood, I would also wish my child to experience something they wish to experience. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime thing. It's just prom.
But 3 million to rent a chopper for one day, that is someone's salary written on just a day of fun. But then someone said you do spend this money in bars in one night. So
why not on your child?
Exactly.
Well, Those conversations are still ongoing, so we wait to see what the ministry has to say in regards to that. Shall we be seeing regulations of prom? I do know of some huge schools in the country who no longer do prom because of some of these things, the competition among these students. But nonetheless, we are now heading off to our inspirational song of the day. This one is termed Like You by Tatiana. But after the break, we have conversations rotating around the Karuma Bridge, the situation at the bridge, and then what the Uganda National Roads Authority has to say. Good morning.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
You gotta get up. You gotta get up and make a move. 'Cause the world will never see you until you do. No, they don't really care what you're going through. So you gotta show them, baby.
The channel said it reserved the right to pursue every legal step moving forward, as Israel's communications minister Shalom Kahi said equipment had been taken in the raid. Now, a video posted by the minister on X shows police officers and inspectors from the ministry entering a hotel room. Now, also, we head south of the Americas as massive floods in Brazil's southern Rio Grande do Sul state have killed at least 75 people over the last 7 days, and another 103 were reported missing, local authorities have said. Now, the damage from the rains also forced more than 88,000 people from their homes, as state civil defense authorities said on Sunday. Approximately 16,000 took refuge in schools, gymnasiums, and other temporary shelters. The floods left a wake of devastation, including landslides. They also washed away roads and collapsed bridges across the state. The operators reported electricity and communication cuts, with more than 800,000 people are without a water supply, according to the civil defense, which cited figures from water company Kosan. And the devastation to which we are being subjected to is unprecedented, according to the state governor, Eduardo Leite, in a Sunday morning brief. He had previously said that the state will need a kind of Marshall Plan to be rebuilt for such a crisis. Now we return to the African continent, because at least 42 people have died from a measles outbreak in a little more than a week in Nigeria's northeastern state of Adamawa. The state's health commissioner has revealed. Now, Felix Tagwami said on Friday that the measles outbreak had mostly affected 2 local government areas where nearly 200 suspected cases were identified. The measles vaccines have been released to those areas, and the field teams are containing the situation, according to news trending in Nigeria. Now, measles is a highly contagious airborne virus that mostly affects children under the age of 5. It can be prevented by 2 doses of vaccine, and also its early symptoms include high fever, cough, and a runny nose. It also often causes rashes and bumps all over the body of the patient. Now, more than 50 million measles deaths have been averted through vaccinations since 2000. That is according to the World Health Organization. Now, lastly, we speak matters climate change. When Ademola Adesina founded the startup to provide solar and battery-based power subscription packages to individuals and businesses in Nigeria in 2015, it was a lot harder to raise money than it is today. Now, more money is going to African climate startups, but huge funding gap continues.
Was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock on my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting it. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that.
Okay.
The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja Luo segment. Learn about the famous legend of Jipiri and Labongo and how the Alur, Acholi, Jonam and Japadola Jaluo emerged.
The Luo are basically Nilotic.
We are believed to have come from Baragazelle in the Sudan.
When this colonialism came,
Rorawit saved the life of men actually.
Fought fiercely. Which was imprisoned here on that hill, Kololo.
Which remained the greatest hero in Acholi.
Premiering on Saturday the 20th of April 2024, 3 to 8 p.m. at Ndere Center. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
To you, our dear viewer, good to have your company and many thanks for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda, and we are highly happy to be having you this morning. Now, lorries, trailers and buses traveling along the Kampala-Gulu highway have been diverted after government announced the closure of the Karuma Bridge that links northern Uganda, South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, when you look at this, this was a report that has been making rounds all over the media for the entire weekend, because the decision to close the 61-year-old bridge located about 270 kilometers north of Kampala was after an assessment that led to the discovery of the vast cracks on the bridge. So that means for anyone using that route to travel to northern Uganda, there are alternative routes that you ought to be using as of now. And then also, as we await to see the repair works ongoing of the Karuma Bridge. And such a situation puts us into a conversation for our newsreel this morning, looking at the state of the Karuma Bridge. And we are going to be having a conversation this morning, me and Olive Monica Najuma, together with the Media Relations, Public and Corporate Affairs of the Uganda National Roads Authority. That is none other than Alan Sempebwa Chobe, who will be joining us via phone call to have this discussion and build on it to understand the state of the Karuma Bridge. But it's a situation that we need to follow up tirelessly as a national broadcaster, and then also for those in the transportation sector as a country. A very good morning, Mr. Sempebwa, and thank you for joining us here on Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you and our dear viewers from the other parts of the country.
Well, pleasure is ours having you this morning. And, well, of course, from the Uganda National Roads perspective, we need to understand what is the state of the Karuma Bridge and how did you come up to a conclusion of closing it down or also limiting the number of vehicles that are supposed to be passing there?
Thank you very much again. We did undertake a diagnostic study early this year to try and ascertain the reliability, the general strength and life of the bridge structure at Karuma. And even before our investigators could finish the work, because we contracted a local company named MBW Consulting, and even before they could share the report, because they were due to share this report later in the year around August, they discovered quite significant failures on the bridge structure underneath from the different sides of the bridge or approaches, from the Kampala approach and from the Gulu approach. So there and then these failures were flagged off to us, and we took a decision to temporarily or in the interim disrupt traffic as we did last week, communicating on Friday that today, Monday, 6th, we will be having limited traffic flow across that bridge structure, whereby we will be having larger good vehicles diverted and only light traffic using the bridge, because we can't continue loading the structure with more loads in the state that it is right now. As you may be aware, this bridge was done in 1964 and it has made over 60 years now. So it has served its time.
Okay. And also following up on the same situation, one would ask, what are the alternative routes that the Uganda National Roads Authority has put in place? Because now you can only imagine there is a traveler or a transporter who has not used that route for the last 7 days. And they will be shocked if they happen to travel today or one of the days this week. What alternative routes have you put in place for the transporters and those in the logistics industry?
Thank you very much. We've, in the interim, advised road users, particularly those, the diverted traffic, that is for heavy good vehicles, trailers, buses, lorries, to use the Luwero Kafu, you know, as you, from Kampala, for instance, you branch off at Kafu, proceed to Masindi, proceed to Para, that is a road through the Makshon Falls National Park, be able to connect to Pakwach and proceed to the West Nile, or to Gulu via Oluyo. There is a junction after exiting the park. There is a junction that has one route on the left leading you to the West Nile, and the other on the right leading you to Gulu via a section called Oluyo, and the same vice versa for traffic transiting from West Nile and Gulu respectively. That is our major alternative routes that we've given out to the road users, particularly those moving with the lorries, buses, and other heavy good vehicles. The light traffic continues to transit through Karuma Bridge.
Let's look at the impact this has had on the transportation, Mr. Sempebwa, and also on the traffic flow for the last 3 days.
Yes.
Of what impact has it had?
We're probably going to have that feel effective today when the advisory takes effect. In the past, the last few days, traffic has been transiting, including the heavy good vehicles as well as the light traffic, have been transiting through Karuma Bridge. So we're probably going to see this impact start to be existent starting today. Thankfully, the authorities at UA have guided on the travel, itinerary through the park. They've given the guidelines on how to use the road through the park, including monitoring and ensuring that drivers are able to move at a slower speed that is not beyond 40 kilometers per hour. We hope that this also will try to cut down on speeding and possible potential accidents, especially that people may not be familiar with the diversion route.
All right, now speaking still about the diversion routes, I understand that now that the road is closed, the bridge has been closed off, this has now made travel time increase 30%, and of course the cost of transportation has also increased to about 25%. That is according to the Ministry of Works. Now, what measures have been put in place to ensure that the motorists are safe in the alternate routes that have been given?
Like I did share, that road largely traverses through the park. Section of it, actually the bigger section of it, that is from Masindi to Para, about 80 kilometers. So that's the largest route along this diversion route. Who has come out to provide guidelines on how to use this road? I know the other part of the route from Kafu towards Masindi, that's about 40 kilometers, is our normal road, where definitely traffic police is expected to be monitoring and guiding traffic. The other is through the park, over 80 kilometers. Now, who has provided guidelines, including not littering, because that's a park, not speeding, because again, that's a park where animals normally cross from one end to another, and they already have speed cameras in the park. So we believe, and they'll be conducting patrols along this alternative. So we believe it will be managed. So let's give it time today and a few days and monitor and see how traffic flow will be moving.
All right, now we've also been seeing the floods that have been ravaging most parts of Nairobi and other parts of Kenya. And of course, we are no stranger to the same development here in Uganda. We are expecting a high degree of rains in the country. So what measures still are being put in place to ensure that there is no flooding on Uganda's roads so that we can curb the eventuality of accidents in any case?
That's a very nice one. As you may have noticed, of course, the meteorological authorities in the region, in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, have been issuing alerts of the expected rains, heavy rains, and the resultant effects, including flooding of settlements, of definitely homes, and our infrastructure roads have been largely affected. This is a natural phenomenon, we may build the roads to try and withstand floods. Those actually have been done. We have other low-lying roads which need to be elevated, and as such, it's not possible that you can have all the roads in the country elevated to that profile that can withstand floods. But then you may have noticed the situation in Kenya, even for the newly built, rehabilitated and developed roads were flooded, as you may have noticed. The highway and other major roads in Nairobi town were affected. But again, away from that, it calls for responsiveness. So any government must be responsive, and through the agencies. For example, UNRWA in Uganda, we saw Kenya, of course, in Nairobi, trying to intervene, issue alerts, and one of the first way of managing is being active through the various communication channels, issuing travel alerts and advisories, informing people not to move through flooded sections, avoid flooded sections as much as possible. And that's what we've actually tried to do again in Uganda through UNRWA and other agencies of government responsible, the disaster preparedness ministry, for instance, to try and alert Ugandans of the potential flooding effects to avoid crossing flooded sections of our highways, and and try to be careful, especially moving in such areas that are affected. For example, I could give you a scenario. Right now, I think over the weekend, a road in the western region, that is from Kunjiri through Mitano to Kanungu, reported slides. You know, the land is beginning to slide, and the situation has not stopped yet. Throughout the weekend, this was happening. It's because the soils have absorbed a lot of water as a result of these heavy rains, and they're actually starting to slide. So that is a situation that calls for responsiveness. When it happens, you can't stop the slides, you can't stop the rains, the floods, but when it actually happens, we are quickly out there responding, trying to ensure that people are not affected, and where we can intervene as quickly as possible to restore these cut-off sections. That's what we've been doing.
Okay. Now, Mr. Sempepa, back to the issue of Karuma. How are the local businesses and communities being supported during this period of disruption? Because many have been affected, really.
Again, that's now could be a much bigger stakeholder. We could look at it in a much bigger stakeholder lens, because UNRWA alone may not, you know, we have made efforts to provide for an alternative. That is one thing. Traffic police is doing its part, ensuring that people move safely on the road. UWA has also done its part. So maybe the leadership also along the alternative route and the affected area also needs to come up and facilitate businesses. And as much as possible, the relief we are providing right now is connectivity, that we have an alternative. And you know, this is one of the achievements that the government has been able to score on, that on most of our major highways, we've been able to have alternatives. You remember when we had the Katonga cutoff last year, the alternative was the road through PG Kanoni, Gomba, Semba, Vila Maria would continue to Masaka and beyond. Likewise, here we have an alternative, and I call this an achievement because just if we didn't have one, we would have business continuity disrupted. But this is how we've been able to facilitate business continuity, because we have an alternative. And also, again, the light traffic can still traverse through the Karuma Bridge crossing. Well, as we continue to monitor and prepare to undertake the restoration or repair works on the structure.
Well, you as the head of communication at UNRWA, when you look at the communication strategies, what communication strategies have you as the organization employed to inform the public about this bridge and, of course, the current disruptions that are ongoing, besides the social media bit?
Yeah, I think generally, you know, the overarching strategy would be proactive communications. You know, before we get into now the channels and other outlets that we are looking at for communication dissemination, the strategy will be proactive communication. That when we have a situation likely to rather disrupt traffic flow on our highways, we come in and communicate way in time, prepare road users. Karuma is no exception, because we are not waiting to have a crisis on a bridge before we can actually communicate. And we also ensure that we bring this information ahead of time, not unless it's an emergency. But if we have it under control, for example, the Karuma situation, ours was to ensure that the moment the diagnostic team identified these major fatigue signs on the bridge, we immediately, I know the team did not leave office until a public notice was crafted, trying to alert people that in the coming days, this is going to happen. So that proactiveness, I think, has been essential. But also liaising with the media, because the next thing that was done the day after, over the weekend on Saturday, the Minister of Works and Transport, State Minister of Works and Transport, Honorable Musa Echeru, together with UNRWA, together with the Uganda Police, together with UWA, again held a joint press briefing at the bridge, again to try and send out as much information as possible. So we believe that information is starting to filter and go through the different areas it should actually go to. The other would be putting road signs at the diversion point. This is the consultant is already undertaking to do.
Okay.
Also at the bridge structure, try to direct traffic through use of signage. And yes, being available to media outlets like I am doing this morning.
Is this a permanent solution, Mr. Sempebwa, that the Ugandans can sit back and resort to with confidence? And then also, if you can give us a time frame for the repair works of the Karuma Bridge, how long will it take? But again, is this the solution that Ugandans should be confident about from UNRWA's perspective?
Yes, Ugandans should be very confident of our intervention, however temporary it is, because we've been able to do this on many other parts of our network, and they've been able to stand the test of time until we're able to implement the permanent works. So yes, we are intervening. We are handling this as an emergency. This morning, the teams are sitting together with the design teams, the consultant, to try and handpick a contractor who is able to who has capacity, who has the financing to undertake this activity as soon as possible, because we cannot wait, and we're not going to take it through the lengthy procurement procedures. It's going to be a direct and immediate procurement process. Ensure that by the end of this week or even before, we have a contractor who will move to site and start the remedial works. This should be able to take us for some time until we have a permanent solution at this bridge crossing.
All right, now since we are still speaking about roads, the question of safety also comes into focus. And here the big question is UNRWA ready to collaborate with other stakeholders such as local authorities and emergency services to ensure that there is a coordinated response to any emergencies, if any, especially now that the routes have been made longer, anything could happen there?
You raise a very critical observation there. The need for preparedness, the need for collaboration, the need for action, trying to come up with the different agencies of government to ensure that should there be any crisis on an alternative route, we're able to respond as soon as possible. I think this is a call on us to be prepared for this and work together to manage any situation that may occur on the alternative. The good sign already is we've been moving together from the time this announcement was issued. We've been working with the traffic police. We've been working with the UA managers of the park. We've been working with the Uganda People's Defense Forces. So we know that it's going to be concerted and collaborative.
And when you look at the lessons that we are picking from here, what lessons has the Uganda National Roads Authority picked from the Karuma situation? And then moving forward, how do we prepare ourselves for such, situations that are bound to happen, because we have quite a number of bridges across the country. And of course, with time, they will have to wear out. But how do we prepare for such situations?
Thank you very much. I didn't mention that usually we have short-term and long-term solutions on most of our highways whenever we have such incidents. Of course, through the government of Uganda, as you may be aware, when we had the situation at Katonga, we moved in quickly to try and provide a diversion. Government moved in quickly to secure funds for an alternative diversion, which was built and still standing and open to traffic flow. But also government then prepared resources to try to have a permanent crossing at this section, which works are about to kick off. So again, our state of alertness must be on a high. I can tell you that we know the condition of these bridge structures. We have already picked information, we've already picked signals, and where we do not have such information, we've moved in with the various technical teams to try and assess. The same that actually happened with Karuma. We would be talking about a worse situation than we are right now. If indeed this bridge had collapsed on us, what would we tell Ugandans? But, we are happy now to talk about a situation that we've been monitoring, and we come to you to share information before you actually come to tell us that, wait a minute, this is actually happening. This is going to be a disaster. Or wait until a disaster actually happens. So we now are able to monitor these structures, know their state of life, and prepare for interventions to either increase their longevity or try and design permanent solutions. This is happening at Katonga. I've already given an example. We're doing the same at Sezibwa, or we've done the same at Karuma. And what we did in the past with the Nile Bridge is another phenomenal example that we're able to move in and, put up a new bridge, and the old one was left to lighter traffic.
Now, Mr. Sempewa, one for the road, pun intended. What is the estimated cost of the repair works, and who is going to fund it?
We are trying to get a contractor with resources, capacity, and that will give us the job as quickly as we need it. So we are yet to establish the costs. I told you, teams are sitting again today to try and finalize the costings, and we'll let Ugandans know, because this is an emergency. It has not been planned for. The defects have been identified, but it's not the entire bridge. There are just components of the bridge structure that are fatigued, which intervention will be done. So the costing is going to be done, and at an appropriate time we'll share with the Ugandans, because now we're doing the processing of the contract to be able to start the works as soon as possible.
And have the transporters or people, applying their trade along the route been cooperative enough for the past 3 days since you set out this warning or this caution against using the bridge?
Yeah, I was there on Saturday, and I can tell you there was no more traffic flow. Why? Because we hadn't fully engaged the diversion gear like we're doing today. So we're going to have to see how the course of the day goes. By the end of today, we'll probably have finer observations on how traffic flow will be using the alternative and how light traffic shall be transiting through the bridge. So we're here to see how this plays out today.
And then also, Mr. Sempewa, when you look at the diversions in the park, a very interesting, point that I'm trying to drive forward. In an incident where the truck drivers, or in case, let's say, a bus carrying passengers gets to break down within the park, has the Uganda Wildlife Authority, put up the right measures to safeguard the people who may get this breakdown, let's say late in the night, where the wild animals are free to move? How safe would that be?
I can see the nature of risk you're currently assessing. Yes, the animals. I see in their latest guidance, they did say that there will be no stopping, unnecessary stopping, but only emergency stops are permitted. That's according to the guidance they issued yesterday. As to other measures, I'm not fully certain, but probably somebody from UWA should be able to clarify on this. But they tried to issue guidelines on how park shall be used, and they did say that emergency stops are allowed, but unnecessary stops are also not recommended, for safety. You could come out from anywhere and something unfortunate actually happened. So they've tried to recommend that travelers do not stop anywhere at any time, but unless for emergency situations. So, well, I believe they would come out and issue more guidelines on how to use the park and what needs to be avoided. But also, since they are the custodians of the park, so we know that they're going to flag off their patrols to try and monitor that route.
Okay, just to be corrected, the Daily Monitor did report that vehicles that are carrying passengers less than 28 are still allowed to cross the bridge. Is that so?
Daily Monitor, when was that report?
A report that was... Yes?
Is it in today's papers?
Not today's papers.
Oh.
Over the weekend.
They're not quite, they're not far from what we advised. We did
Friday, May 3rd, the Daily Monitor, Friday.
Oh, yes. I think that was the quick story they put out, because we did issue our advisory on 3rd May, informing Ugandans that starting today, there will be regulated traffic flow at the bridge crossing. But we did also say that only passenger vehicles carrying up to 28 passengers shall be permitted to use the bridge, meaning that's the size of a coaster.
Okay.
But buses shall be rerouted onto the diversion.
And speaking of the diversion, still Daily Monitor today has a headline that only buses, trucks won't pay fee on the para route. Please expound on that.
Again, that's a guideline that has UA may correctly speak for, but they did again say from our public notice, because we did advise light traffic shall continue to transit through Karuma. So UA is saying, therefore, unless you tourist, they expect that light traffic continues to go through the bridge, because that's what we indicated in our advisory. So if you belong to the light traffic category and you're going through the park, the fees have been maintained.
Okay, and let's look at the future road projects by the Uganda National Roads Authority. Or what are the current projects away from the Karuma situation? We're having some roads that clearly need maintenance, not only in Kampala but away from Kampala, especially the feeder roads and the like. When you look at the situation, many Ugandans are not happy with the state of the Kampala roads, for example. What are the plans of UNRA this year, and which roads are you working on as per now?
Kampalans are not happy. UNRA manages a vast road network over 22,000 kilometers, and we are limited within the city, Kampala city, and this is largely the responsibility of the Kampala Capital City Authority. Much as we've done a few road projects like the Kampala Northern Bypass, which you will agree with me, is able to give you seamless traffic flow and transit in through the city and outside. We've done the Kampala Flyover project, which you also agree with me has manage traffic flow dynamics within the city center along the project corridor. Now the rest are then outside the Kampala city that UNRA is mandated to supervise. And these include, for example, we have the Najana Kumbi-Kusabala Road project. We have Kirakasangati Matuga Road project. These are ongoing road projects. We have Segampiji Expressway under construction now. We have a road in Wakiso Kitara Gedenge Road that we are doing. We have now I'm starting to go away from Kampala. We have a road in the Karamoja sub-region, Moto Rokitanyara, ongoing. We have Toro Busia Road, which has kicked off. We have Muyembe Nakapiripirit, that is in the Karamoja sub-region, from Umbali, Muyembe towards Nakapiripirit. We have Atia Klaropi, that's in the West Nile. Construction is ongoing, in fact nearly complete. We have Kapchura Swamp connecting us to the border with Kenya. The works are nearly complete and nearly due for commissioning. We have Kunjiri Chihihi, Ishishaka Nungu, that is also nearly complete. We have Luwero Utarangu project, which kicked off last year, and several others. So we have both upgrading new road projects, which I've just shared with you, but also we have rehabilitation projects. For example, Busunju Hoima Road is under rehabilitation right now. It's an old road that we're giving a facelift. We're going to elevate the profile of that road, provide for new bridges. That road you're asking me also stop preparedness across our low-lying roads. This is one of them where we're going to elevate the profile of that road and provide for bridge structures to be able to withstand floods, because we suffered floods the other year from the Kafu River flooding along Hoima Road. We also are doing Matuga, Semtoka Peka rehabilitation and several other roads.
Mr. Sempewa, there is a question coming in for you from one of our viewers asking whether UNRA does have a department of planning, because according to them, what UNRA does is come in last minute, and of course they're relating this to some other government agencies who come in last minute to review a situation when it has become dire. And they're wondering whether you plan and can at least survey these roads way ahead of time to avoid stopgap measures that come in very last minute.
I can tell you Yes, we have a planning. Every I think entity has a planning unit. Government of Uganda has
Does
planning
it work
unit.
though?
The National Planning Authority in UNRWA, we have a network a department for network planning and engineering, which, like I told you, I gave you an example that had we not done an assessment on Karuma Bridge, for instance, we're ahead of time, we will not be intervening now. Because at any one point, you have to intervene. But are we intervening because there is a major destruction of the bridge? No. In fact, it's because of the alertness of our teams that we're able to identify that not the entire bridge structure, but components of the structure are fatigued. And we are moving in to provide a solution. You get? So if we had no eyes on our road network, we would not be able to intervene now. It would have been a disaster, and we're intervening. I don't know if you're picking my point.
I'm picking your point, and I think this question comes in against the backdrop of, for instance, what happened a couple of weeks ago in Busega along Masaka Road. Traffic, yes.
Kampala Masaka Highway.
Exactly, and one wonders, did UNRWA do a survey on a place like this, or they were also caught unaware, just like the rest of the public?
With the ongoing floods currently, you get to realize that these are some situations that are likely to happen.
I think at no point have we been caught unawares. We are in charge of our network. We know every bit of our network. We know sections of our network that are low-lying, and we know that we'll be affected should we have rains. And that's why when this actually happens, it's not that we've not prepared for it. We have a solution. I gave you an example of Katonga, for instance. Radar, for instance, which used to break out day in and day out. We have designs for these projects. What is missing is the financing component, the funds to try and implement these designs. But we have several of them in our company. Whenever we get resources, we roll out one. Like we're now going to do for Katonga. Government of Uganda was able to get financing, and we're going to do that bridge. We're going to do is the other bridge, Kayunga, Sizigwa Bridge. And several others are actually already ongoing. I think if we look at what has been done first, before we begin to say you have not done this, therefore you didn't have your eyes on the network. We have done in the last about 5 years, we've done over 50 bridges. Now, these are sections on our highway that have been elevated. And whenever there is flooding, they are going to withstand, they will not be affected, and traffic will not be disrupted. There's a bridge we just completed recently connecting Kaliro to Palisa. It's the Saka Bridge crossing, designed to last over 120 years. Now, we know the situation before. People could not cross, people lost lives.
It's actually a beauty of a bridge. I would have to give it to you.
I beg your pardon?
It's actually a beauty of a bridge.
Yes.
So we are giving you your flowers.
Thank you very much. At least you were able to see what has been done. So a lot has been done. A lot more needs to be done. And like I said, these designs are there, the plans are there, only a matter of financing and time, and they're implemented. That's why we have new road projects done every year.
Okay.
Every year. And we're able to keep parts of our network alive and running, much as others may not, but we have a network that is alive and running. It will be a disaster if the entire country is cut off.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Alan Sempebwa, this morning, for dedicating some time to speaking to us this morning, as well as our dear viewer who was concerned about that area of the bridge in Karuma. Have yourself a good day.
Good day too, and thank you for this opportunity to share as much information as possible.
All right, there you have it, Alan Sempebwa Chowe, who is the manager, media relations, as well as the public and corporate affairs in the executives Director's Office at the Uganda National Roads Authority, giving us, a clear picture of what is happening at the Karuma Bridge, the diversions, and also the works that the Uganda National Roads Authority is, working on this very year. But of course, we shall be linking up with them pretty soon to understand how far they have gone, and then on anything regarding the state of Uganda's roads. But as of now, that is it for our newsreel this morning. Thank you very much for watching. But stick around because Alan Namisango returns with the GMU Tourism Express. Then later on, we have business and the traffic updates following up. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja Luo segment. Learn about the famous legend of Jipiri and Labongo and how the Alur, Acholi, Jonam and Japadola Jaluo emerged.
The Luo are basically Nilotic.
We are believed to have come from Baragazelle in the Sudan.
When this colonialism came,
Which saved the life of men actually.
fought fiercely. Which was imprisoned here on that hill, Kololo.
Which remain the greatest hero in Acholi.
Premiering on Saturday the 20th of April 2024, 3 to 8 p.m. at Ndere Center. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Lake Victoria, Africa's biggest freshwater body lake, is dotted with so many islands. When you talk about the 84 islands that are just in Kalangala district, talk about Tessa Islands, Bulago Islands, so many islands that you could think about every time you think about islands that are dotted on Lake Victoria, because yes, it is Africa's largest. However, there are so many other unique islands that have not been explored in Uganda, and that they will shock you with the beauty that they have. I bet that you have been at Dorwe Island. You know, one place that we've been having in Uganda that is very common for rock paintings, that is Nyoro rock paintings. But now this place, Dorwe Island, is outshining this one place that we've been having in the country. Now this island, Dorwe Island, is located in Namayingo district at the eastern part of Lake Victoria. It has so many things that I cannot even explain. Words cannot explain the beauty, the mystery of paintings that are here at this place, the rocks, the beautiful landscapes. The place is so virgin that I am going to commend you, or I'm going to challenge you to make sure that you visit this place. But before, let's go around and you see what is happening at this place.
My name is Discharge Gabriel. I'm a conservator at Lolwe or Dolwe Rock Art Site, or we call it Heritage Site. The word Lolwe came from the founder, who is Rabango, that sent his team to come and look for a new land, place to stay. It came from the word Okulolwa, like his team and the sons came here and they went back and then told him about how the travel was and the visit of the island.
This island has a lot of historical features. To start with, we have rock gongs, we have rock depressions, there are rock paintings on this island, and all these things are natural. Things that trace back from 20,000 years ago. Now that is something you don't want to miss out.
We have a lot of amazing things on the island that I would wish people to come and see. We have a number of paintings. We have them at Gorofa, Abukangawa Singla, and other places. We do hiking here. You can come and hike the rocks. We have the engravings, the games, actually the rocks that are engraved in the ancient games. Or we have the board games, we call them Omweso. We have the caves, rock shelter, where our ancestors used to stay. We have the gongs, like sounds like xylophone, those instruments that they were using before the discovery of drums. We have a number of things like even sunset capture. We have beach walk. We have a number of beaches here. We also cruise to some of the islands, like the iconic, which is Mwango. It is very beautiful, that I wish people to come and visit. There is also birding we do birding, not like on main as such, but we do birding on water. As you cruise around, you enjoy the water, and you also enjoy it. There is a lot. So far we have a ferry that can connect us from Maine, which is Bukana Sigulu, to Lolwe or Dolwe Island.
How to get here is very easy because we have a free ferry. The government put a free ferry, Unra ferry, which is in Amayingo. So it will only take you 3 hours to get here. All you need to do is just drive from wherever you are, get to the ferry every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday and Saturday. That is when you travel, and you'll be here in just about 3 hours. Have a good time, enjoy the place. The good thing is we even have facilities where you can sleep. We have a new facility like Lafang. We have several other upcoming facilities. So when you're here at the island, you're just good to go. The place is amazing, and trust me, the history around here, the culture is just spot on.
Yes, all right. Lafang Eco Resort being an icon on Dolly Island, it is very helpful to the community in a way that it helps the community with jobs. Like we have quite a number of people working at Lafang, but they are from the community.
I think you've seen what is really we are talking about in Dolwe Island. The beauty at this place is really mesmerizing. However, like you've seen, the place is so virgin. The place doesn't have any tourism developments. It doesn't have a lot of accommodation facilities. I think there is only currently just one accommodation facility where you can think about, that is Lafang Eco Resort. That is where you can stay currently. But the place is so virgin. It is open for investments. If you want to improve tourism in this place, you can think about investing in such places. The government is also working together with the districts to see that they improve also on the transportation to this place, because I think there was no ferry that was going to Dolwe Island until the recent 2 years. That is when they got a ferry that goes to Dolwe Island from Busia. So this is a destination that you must visit. Its beauty is captivating, and it is just that once-in-a-lifetime experience that you shouldn't miss. I am Irene Alena Misango. This is the GM Tourism Express, uncovering for you all the beauties that there are in the country. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the GMU Business this morning. As the week kicks off, it's high time for us to get into the world of business to understand the future prospects for this week, and then how ready and geared up it is for the business world, because it does look like it is of huge importance for us to get to understand the information around the business world and how we can maneuver through the different hurdles that it does present. Now, kicking it off, we start with the fishing industry, because the fishermen and landlords have clashed over a docking site. Now, a dispute did occur between fishermen and landowners at Chigungu landing site, that is in Entebbe municipality in Wakiso district, over the use of the docking site. The fishermen have been forced to dock their boats on nearby land due to rising water levels. That did submerge the entire docking site, causing conflict with the landowners because of, well, when you look at the situation here, is that the rising water levels have highly been attributed to the heavy rains that are in the country, all that have been in the country for the past few days, and we are likely to be experiencing even more in the coming days. Now, according to to Fred Serada, one of the fishermen, revealed that the landlords don't want the fishermen to dock at their land, yet they also have nowhere to go, as the entire place where they've been docking is flooded and full to capacity. Now, the fishermen are further calling on the government and local leaders to intervene, since the landowners are requesting that they pay a fee of 20,000 per boat to dock. They argue that they pay taxes and should be allowed to dock in the 200-meter buffer zone that should be left free. Now, also the Secretary of Production, Marketing and Social Rehabilitation at the Entebbe Division B, John Nduga, appealed to the landowners to permit the fishermen's boat to dock temporarily while the government works to address the issue at hand and provide a temporary solution for the current situation of the overflooding at the Entebbe docking site. Now, Nduga suggests that the government could buy land around Chigungu shores for fishing activities in the future generations or in the future time. He also noted that the challenges of rising water levels is affecting the entire Chigungu village, with houses, roads and churches also being submerged by the water. Now, also the chairperson of Division B, Richard Sechondo, agreed with Nduga's appeal and emphasized that they are chasing the fishermen away, as chasing the fishermen away is not a solution. You have to create a solution that is favorable for both ends, because at the end of the day, the economic activity of fishing has to continue for the fishermen. So also, NEMA is also part of the discussions to ensure that this situation comes to come, and of course to ensure that everyone involved does not end up losing lots of money, because the landlords want the fishermen to pay a fee of 20,000, which the fishermen feel is not right, because they are paying for taxes as well to access the lake. Now we head to the East African community, because the East African Community Bank governors have now resolved to review timelines for the creation of a single currency as member states push the implementation to 2030 amid geopolitical tensions. Now, what is happening is that the regional bank governors reached the conclusion during an ordinary meeting that was chaired by South Sudanese bank governor. That was at the end days of April. Now, in attendance were Edward Nomad Bigendeko, the bank governor of Burundi, Dr. Kamau Thunge, bank governor of Kenya, then Emmanuel M. Tutumba, bank governor of Tanzania, Dr. Thierry Migingo Kalisa, the chief economist at the National Bank of Rwanda, and Dr. Adam Mugume, who is the executive director at the Bank of Uganda. Now, the bank governors of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Somalia did not turn up and had no representatives at the meeting. Now, in a joint statement, the governors who make up the East African Community Monetary Affairs Committee say that they reviewed the status of the implementation of the March 2023 ordinary meeting, which resolved the single currency reunion by 2031. Now, the governors said partner states have made progress towards implementing price-based monetary policy frameworks that will ensure that the single currency comes to pass. This include harmonizing regional macroeconomic and financial statistics to support policy formulation, also implementing the East African Community financial market structure, harmonizing principles and rules for the regulation and supervision of the region's financial system. Now, over the years, many of the East African Community member states have been pushing for a single currency because of the continuous rate at which some of the currencies are deteriorating against the other. And, well, focusing on the single currency will spur economic growth and also ensure that the East African Community member states have one uniform currency where they can easily trade, in a situation where also free entry into other countries is also under discussion. So for trade to boom and grow, a single currency will also be something that will lead to the strength of the entire East African community. Now, lastly, we talk matters cement because according to what is coming in is that under the deal, there was a deal which saw Himsem Holdings and Cementia Holding AG Sarai Group and Rimi Holdings jointly acquire the entire issued share capital of Hima Cement from Himsem Holdings Limited, amounting to 70% shareholding, which is an equivalent of 1,335,600 shares, while Cementia Holding AG acquired 30% shares of the entire Hima Cement business. However, a recent profit warning submitted to the Nairobi Securities Exchange indicated a projected 25% drop in the cement makers' earnings for 2023, which is a setback attributed to Hima Cement exit transaction. Now, Bamburi total turnover grew by 6.3% to $160 million by the close of December, while profiting at $7.4 million during the period under review. So, according to the latest developments coming along, that show that Hima Cement sale shines light on Uganda's tax regime. And well, lastly, from our press review, we now, lastly from our business update this morning, we now look at the forex market to see how different currencies were faring on the exchange, especially before close of business over the weekend. So how you will definitely find the different currencies faring at the exchange. Well, of course, I'll give you more details and updates of that exchange tomorrow on the same time here on Good Morning Uganda. But for now, coming up is the traffic updates with Olive Monica Najuma.
Well, we steer you into this morning with traffic updates as you tag along and traverse through Kampala's roads to get to your final destination. Could be your place of work, place of business, or wherever that you're traveling to this morning. So it's important that you know how the road looks like as of today. Now, before we get into the traffic updates, let us look at how you can maneuver through potholes on some of our roads. Yes, we know we all desire to have smooth roads, and for the most part, lately we have some new roads or those that have been rehabilitated within the Kampala metropolitan area, but still in other places we still have potholes. So why not look at how you can drive? These are driving tips for you if you are going through a road that also has potholes. And of course, it goes without saying, you have to leave reasonable distance between your car and the one in front. This will help you spot the pothole sooner. So as you are moving along, you need to ensure that, there is a distance so that you can see what is really going on up front. Now, as you still move along, follow the tracks of the vehicle in front of you while keeping an eye on its brake lights. This will guide you so that you do not actually find yourself knocking the car or dipping into a pothole that is right in front of you, so that you avoid an accident in case of any eventuality. But also you need to ensure that you maintain sight of potholes and their surroundings to get a glimpse into the available space for maneuvering. And the next tip is avoid switching lanes. Yes, we find ourselves switching lanes when we are encountering potholes because probably the opposite lane, there is a smooth patch that you can use, but now this might actually might disrupt traffic, but also may cause an accident. And of course, the next tip is speeding on a potholed road is a terrible idea because it will cause damage to your car. So as you're moving, you need to think about your suspension because if you move faster in an area that has potholes, you're damaging your car and that is going to heighten your bill when it comes to the mechanic. And of course, moving along, gliding over the pothole gracefully requires a strong grip on the steering wheel, especially now that we are going to have rains within different parts of the country. You need to keep this in mind that when you're gliding over potholes, you may as well grip the steering wheel a bit strongly to ensure that you have everything under control. And the last tip while maneuvering on a potholed road is avoid driving over puddles during the rainy season. So if you cannot see where you're going, if you do not see the road very well, if the area is covered by water, you may consider avoiding driving over areas where you don't have a clear vision, and that will enable you to maneuver through different roads that have potholes as you are going ahead with your day to ensure that you get to your final destination in good health, in one shape, and that your car is also in a good place so that you do not have to spend so much money as you go to the garage. Well, with that, now we are going to look into the traffic updates for this morning. So which area are you coming from? If you're coming from the areas of Chira, we are looking at the traffic updates along that road. And of course, we are picking it from the areas of Kasangati. And we would like to see how you can go from Kasangati side and get through Chira, Chaliwajala, Namugongo, up until when you reach areas of Ntinda and maybe the Central Business District. Now, from what I see where Gayaza Road and Kasangati Road join, there is intense traffic in this area as of this morning. Now, for those coming in through from the road that brings you from Matuga to connect you to Gayaza Road or to take you through Chira, I see intense traffic coming in from that side, joining Gayaza Road. And of course, for those that are coming in from Gayaza side, I still see intense traffic jam still around this intersection. Now, crossing over to where this road now takes you to the sides of Chira. Of course, at the start, I see intense traffic jam, which loosens up at some point, and then it becomes green zones as you head the side of Chira. My goodness, if you've been that side, it's a beauty of a road. It is smooth, it is huge. There are 4 lanes, so you have space to drive. But as of this morning, I see orange zones, meaning that the traffic situation that side, if you're coming from Kasangati, is one to behold, at least as of this minute. Now, continuing with the same road, the traffic situation now loosens up, and as we go along, all I'm seeing along the Kasangati Namgongo Road is a smooth flow of traffic for the most part. So we continue with this road and see how it looks like when you join the areas of Chira, because at least for now, I've been seeing a smooth flow of traffic this side of town. But then when we reach Shelbuwate, there we are going to encounter a bit of traffic jam, but not for a long stretch. And as we continue still ahead with the same road, we have a smooth flow of traffic in this area. Still continuing with the same, those going to Buwate side, I see that Buwate Road is actually smooth this morning. And of course, there is a bit of a built-up of traffic on the Kasanga-Tichira Road itself. So as you're moving along, you need to be advised. But still, I don't think it is something you should worry so much about, because the road is intensely huge. It's been done in a beautiful, beautiful way. I can't wait to see how the Nigeria Road is going to look like, because they're starting to work on that as well. But as we look at Kasanga to Namgongo Road this morning, there is a smooth flow of traffic in this area. So if that's where you're going, you are in luck. And the beauty is that even when you're coming from Namgongo side, the sections, especially around the shrine that they have been working on, that has been bringing in intense traffic, the road is now done. So there is smooth flow of traffic that side. And of course, the small spaces where they're still working on the same, there is at least you can see that the traffic flow is going back to normal, as we have no need for a bit of time. But for those coming in from Kasanga to Namgongo Road, what we see right now is smooth flow of traffic. Now, when you reach the Chira roundabout, this is where you're going to encounter a bit of traffic jam as now you cross over and join Mbogo Road. Now, Mbogo Road lately, especially now that they removed the tarmac lane layer of the road, there is a bit of bumps on that section of the road, so you might spend a bit of time there. But still, as you move along, I think it's now better than the potholes that have been there previously. So you should be able to move smoothly as you get into the areas of Nigeria and then Chiwatule. For the most part, I see that there is a traffic build-up at Mbogo Road, but that should not discourage you. At least we know that once you reach the areas of Nigeria too, there is usually smooth flow of traffic after you've gotten from the areas that have had bumps and traffic jam. So that's it for our traffic updates. And coming up next is the Good Morning Uganda agenda. And later on, Ruben Mpima will be coming your way with the sports updates. We had a jam-packed weekend in Miami with the Grand Prix, and I'm sure he's going to give us details regarding that.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock on my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting it. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja Luo segment. Learn about the famous legend of Jipiri and Labongo and how the Alur, Acholi, Jonam and Japadola, Jaluo emerged.
The Luo are basically Nilotic.
We are believed to have come from Baragazal in the Sudan.
When this colonialism came,
Rorawit saved the life of men actually.
fought fiercely. Which was imprisoned here on that hill, Kololo.
Awij remain the greatest hero in Acholi.
Premiering on Saturday, the 20th of April 2024, 3 to 8 p.m. at Ndere Center. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Gange ndetubona Kiranda Amina mu company eya WIB Uganda Limited ndi member. Wemba member company eno weyeida twalinga tutuli bulungi nga abakyala abe wakawaka. Abakyala abe wakawaka tuemera kuba ami baife nga bonkana abajamu nandanga twidi nti abakyala tebakozesa ki nanda. UN Women weyeida yatuteekateeka yatwegesa okulunda engege nga abakyala. Twatandika beno okudulunda n'okudirisa n'okolaki twafuna mu ng'abakyala ababujiri district. Abakyala ababujiri district sofa tuli abakyala 14 abakola project eya WIB. Abakyala 14 twayawula mu sectors. Mulimu abakyala ba production abaliisa, mwaba abakyala ba validation abongera engege omutindo bayongerako omutindo, twaba n'abakyala ba harvesting abaharvestinga, twaba n'abakyala abakolaki aba marketing. Sector dona did trained era did chedikola. Project eno tufunye mu ng'abakyala. Government yaife ne ya Uganda njebaza. Okuja kujanga batulingirira mu ng'abakyala abana Uganda. Eri kujanga eturobingira ebibiina bingi. We have UWeb, baleta parish development model. We have Myoga. Byona biri kwida muki mu bakyala. Oba mu bantu abaki aba Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good to have you sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. It's time for our agenda this morning, and we're heading directly into matters patriotism. And of course, we want to look at the role of young leaders in building an inclusive and sustainable Uganda that works for everyone. And speaking of everyone, that means you, my guests, and well, of course, your loved ones, family, so entirely all the Ugandans. A Uganda that is beneficial to all of us, a Uganda where everything works in our favor, or a Uganda where systems work and systems are supposed to be designed to work for the Ugandans. I have two guests this morning. One is Asimwe Hafashimana, who is the president of Uganda Democracy Academy. A very good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you here on Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much. Most obliged.
All right.
Yeah.
And then away from him, I also have a lady in studio this morning. This one is serving as the Secretary for Legal Affairs at the National Youth Council, Mase Kanyesije. Very good morning, Mase, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. And I'll start off with Mr. Asimwe, who is the president of the Democracy Academy. Mr. Asimwe, just in your preamble, what does the Democracy Academy stand for? And of course, what are the major things that you do at the Academy?
Thank you so much. Firstly, the Uganda Democracy Academy is a program for the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy.
Okay.
And for the academy side, of course, the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy has been in Uganda for some time, and the secretariat is in Ntinda. And whereas in a bid to ensure that there is democracy, encouraging young people to participate in politics, I mean in democracy, there was an idea to begin up an academy whereby youth leaders from different political parties are selected. Leaders from UNSA, the National Youth Council, all political parties, members representing the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Youth Affairs. All of these are institutions that are represented in the Uganda Democracy Academy, and this was begun last year. And this year is another cohort of leaders going through that training around democracy, understanding the history of Uganda, the achievements, and definitely decide on how best Ugandans or the young leaders can take up the mantle, especially in the next bid to create the Uganda that each of us desire. So ideally, as of now, the Uganda democracy looks at training and equipping young leaders with knowledge, because you cannot be there without ideology, without knowledge, understanding on how your country has come from very far. So each of those elements are geared by youth leaders from different political parties and those other institutions as highlighted above. Yeah.
All right. And it's a pleasure having you this morning. Let me get to Mercy. Mercy, National Youth Council. Just a quick one, you know, a brief introduction of what the Youth Council does and what bodies it does bring together.
Thank you so much. Good morning to our dear viewers out there. Greetings from the young people of this country, from the National Youth Council of Uganda. Thank you for that question. National Youth Council is the body that unites all the young people in Uganda. National Youth Council, we have the structures in each and every district, starting from the village level, parish, sub-county, up to the national level. And one of our roles that we do as National Youth Council is to unite all young people, as I've already told you, that we know where I am right now. I know at least 3 people from each district in this country, which is very, very important. Also, we do protect young people from any kind of manipulation at every stage. If there is anything, young people, we are always the one in charge. We also represent young people at different levels. We present young people's voice. For example, if there is a meeting, maybe the discussion going on in regard to the young people, we are always the one that consulted before they take the decision on behalf of the young people. We also connect the young people. We're also in charge of connecting the young people of this country to other international countries, for example, Tanzania, Kenya, and other countries. We are the one in charge. We always connect young people. We give them opportunities to go and share ideas with the young people from different countries and see how best they are doing in their country so that they can bring it back home and they implement it.
Well, let me get to Mr. Asimwe real fast. When it comes to building an inclusive Uganda, especially that will see the young people involved, what are the strategies that we need to lay first as the young people and you as the youth leaders and representatives?
Thank you so much, Comrade Soko. Things to do with youth inclusivity, especially in creating the Uganda that is sustainable for each of us. Number one, you cannot discuss this topic without mentioning advocacy. And therefore, that is one of the criteria that you and the rest can really base on to ensure that we have and create that sustainable Uganda that each of us desire. Of course, collaboration. Whereas my good friend, Honorable Kanyesi Jemase, says that the National Youth Council has those representatives from each of the districts, it is imperative for us to note that we need collaboration in each of those districts by the youth leaders, so that in case there is anything affecting us from, for example, where I come from Kisoro, and perhaps it is easier for me to collaborate with the person who comes from Arua in West Nile. Somebody who is in Butaleja in Eastern can collaborate with somebody who is in Urakai district. So things to do with collaboration cannot be ignored. Number 3, youth empowerment. That's why I think we have seen our government trying to empower the young leaders, especially those that are in informal sector. Look at our colleagues from the border. Look at those that have not been able to continue further their education, who have saloons, who have carpentry and joinery businesses. These were supported through EMUGA. So I think such elements must not be ignored if it means really having a sustainable Uganda that we deserve. Initially, we have the Hope Anthem, which I think you have gone through in your primary, the one that says, we young women, we are the pillars of Uganda, to rebuild the great pearl. So since Uganda is a great pearl of Africa, and we are aware that Africa is a powerful continent all over the world, that means the pearl of the world is Uganda. So if it has to do with sustainability, in our country, Uganda, we must not ignore those fundamentals. You might recall that in the NLM party, we have things to do with the democracy, and I think that's why there is an interest by the Uganda Democracy Academy to ensure that we have to bring awareness to the community, much more to do with the youth, the young people who are between the age of at least maybe 18 up to 30 and beyond maybe, so that they can understand what does it take. Is it my constitutional mandate to ensure that I participate in an election? Should I participate in an election without even having the electoral violence? Can I go through in a free and fair election? And I think to do with that, we cannot have the country that we desire if we have the leaders that we have not selected for ourselves. That's why you see in the books of Johnny Maxwell, he's very clear when he says that every society has the leaders they deserve. Why? Because it's these leaders that select, these people in the community that select these leaders. So to cut the long story short, I want to make it clear that we cannot build a sustainable Uganda for everybody if those above mentioned principalities are not undertaken. Okay. And when you talk about democracy, I mean patriotism, because it is the core of this discussion. It is also part of the pillars of the NLM party. And when you look at patriotism, this was something that was created in 2009. Why? Because there were clubs already ongoing in primary schools and other tertiary institutions and universities, but there was no secretariat. So this was put in 2009 by the president, His Excellency Museveni, to ensure that there is a clear central manner of handling these clubs. And in the end, I think as of now, there is effort by the lady who is there, the secretariat, and I think something is being done. So you cannot separate democracy from patriotism. If I say I love my country, then I must see everything transiting in the best manner possible. That's why you have seen other leaders, national, locals, and intermediate, trying to advocate for a better transition, which I think we are root to the patriotism manner. Yeah.
And speaking of patriotism, let me get to Mercy. Mercy, you are here representing the National Youth Council. Speaking of patriotism, today the youth who make up the largest number of our population have a number of grievances that they have. Many of them have actually lost love for their country. I'll put it in quotes. Not all of them, but some of them still have issues. When you look at bringing together the young people into this inclusive Uganda, what needs to be done? First of all, to bring back those that have lost hope in the country.
Thank you, Comrade, for the opportunity. Firstly, I need to add more what he was talking about,
sure.
The inclusivity of the young people. Or what we need to do as young leaders. Of course, I cannot segregate myself because I'm also a leader. What needs to be done is to call upon Ugandans, and most especially the young people, to engage in to participate in active engagement, civic engagement. In civic engagement, I mean what my comrade said, engaging in democratic processes, public meetings, and community engagement. It helps the young people to hold their leaders accountable because they have participated in the process. They know maybe the person they are going to vote for, this is the person who came to them or who presented the manifesto. They know where to start from. But if young people, they don't participate in this, it will still leave the gap that young people are not, they are not considered. So as a young leader, it is our responsibility to call upon young people to participate in election so that they can hold their leaders accountable. And above all, they can also participate as candidates in an election for them to feel satisfied, because we have very able, energetic, and brilliant young people who can serve in this. But if they don't have the information, they end up, leaving. So by engaging them, we shall be bridging the gap of, being left out, Yeah. Also, what we need to do as a young leader, leaders is to embrace, partnership and collaboration.
Okay.
You get. Young people, we have a lot of challenges that we are facing in this country.
True.
They are very many. So we cannot do this, based on only the government. We can reach out to different stakeholders, it may be civil society organization, it may be the government, it may be the local government, it doesn't really matter. For example, under our leadership, National Youth Council, we have engaged very many stakeholders and other organizations, but I will mention a few. Last year, but one, we engaged the Save the Children of Uganda and Horn of Africa. It's a regional organization. We engaged them, and with them we're able to achieve a one youth stop center in Aleptongo district, where young people reach out to have, sports. They have sports. They have short courses like hairdressing, tailoring, bakery. You get, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say, at the end of the day, if young leaders, we can reach out to different people, different stakeholders, they can address our issues. Because we cannot only rely on the government.
Okay, Mercy mentioned something about, reaching out to various stakeholders and the like. But at times it's not an easy thing, especially for the young people, to get into these spaces. Same applies to, the policies that are being made for the country. Many of these policies are made for the young people, but the young people are never in the discussions for these policies, or are never looked out for in case of policy assessment and the like. And yet these are policies that are made for them. And then their representation also in some of these spaces, be it private sector or be it civil society organizations, is very minimal. How do we address something like that?
Thank you. Number one, addressing the idea of whether youth are included in policy making and decision making, it is very critical. And I want to make it clear. Now, there are always interests. And in the political perspective, it is you must offer something because they have to offer something. So there are interests now. And just because the youth are the stakeholders of tomorrow, let me just give you as an example. Number one, that today's leaders we have in those offices have been youth leaders somewhere, and they have been at that youthful age. And whatever they have gone through, it is because they were youth. And perhaps we have that today in their future because they preserved yesterday for today. That would mean that when you look at examples of Chairman Mao, the Honorable Minister for Constitutional Justice, he has gone through students' leadership. Through Makerere, he goes to Parliament from Guru, then he goes as the C5 chairperson, then he leads the whole party for the Democratic Party. Now, those are recent examples which I think we should be proud of. When you look at Honorable Nyamutoro, when you look at Honorable Babel, all these are examples that have been products of student leadership. That means that whatever they are doing, it is because they are still at their youthful age. Therefore, exclusion of this youth minds will enable the Uganda that we desire to take its own direction. You know why? It is because worldwide over, when you look at the university students, they have been the chief agents of a positive change, transformative change. Mention them. In 1971, when Idi Amin Dada was taking over power in Uganda, the late Tumusime Mutebile was the president in Makerere. He was being looked for in that period of time. Why? Because he was very brilliant and very sharp. There is no wonder why in the future he became the Government Bank of Uganda. So what I'm trying to mean that is that the youth leaders today should be included in budgetary processes, in decision making, policy making, mention them. That's why we have had at the Uganda Democracy Academy trying to give us a platform to ensure that we are aware of some of these things. Is it my constitutional mandate to do this and that? So I want to make it clear that even when people are not included, especially now and then, I think it is now time for each of us, the youth leaders, to take up the mantle in advocating youth participation and inclusion, because we cannot have a developed Uganda that we need, that we are seeking for, unless the young people are included. Remember, we are the majority here. In fact, being the majority, we are the minority when it comes to decision making. So our numbers are not mattering.
All right, and you know, Asima does mention something very critical again. And to you, our dear viewer, you can be part of this conversation and on our X app using the hashtag UBCGMU, but also on our WhatsApp number. You can just share your view or opinion on our conversation this morning on what you think should be done in order to build an inclusive Uganda where everything works for everyone. So especially youth inclusion, what do you think needs to be done? Or what do you think has failed us from achieving something that we are aiming at, having a Uganda that is inclusive for everyone? Let me get to Mercy. You know, when you look at creating policies, policy making today has become an issue because the young people who are supposed to benefit from the policies, I'm not saying they are the only ones to benefit from these policies, but they are the majority. And many of the policies are made for the young people because they make up the largest number. They are, you know, we are the most, you know, active Ugandans, let's say on social media. When it comes to the unemployment rates, it's the young people having the bigger number still. When you look at the policies, again, besides the young people getting involved, what should our leaders do to ensure that this Uganda is going to be inclusive for all the young people out there who are struggling with many different aspects of life?
Thank you so much, Comrade, for that question. What I think about the youth inclusion decision making, I may say that partially young people, we are consulted. For example, I told you about the National Youth Council that represent young people. We have been consulted in many occasions. For example, the issue of the parish development model. When the government came up with that program, we were consulted on what needs to be done. And as a National Youth Council, we appreciated it, and our question was, you know, where is the percentage of the young people? Because initially the government had not, you know, they didn't specify what belongs to the young people. So when they consulted us, we were able to raise our voice and say, look, young people, we know the challenges we face in our communities where people believe that young people, we don't make our decision. We said, to be on a safer side, can we have our percentage? And I thank the government that they had our, you know, our advocacy, and they made specific of 20%. So in that way, they engaged us. Also, on that same issue of the PDM, they had not included, they were not specific which people to participate. As the youth leadership, we came out and told, we were like, look, we just also need to have youth representative. You need to be specific. You're saying that youth, what do you mean? So we advocated, and at every parish we have a youth representative, that is a youth chairperson in a parish representing on the PDM committee.
Okay, let's have a conversation around youth involvement in youth-led projects. Same way, however much we are now looking at the government, the bigger picture, do you think the young people also need to increase on their efforts to get involved in certain things?
Absolutely, yes. And
Okay.
the youth have in fact done that before. There are many positions, and of which I think youth have come out to run for. In year out, youth leaders, student leaders come out to stand for these positions at universities, at local council levels. These are youth who are participating and aware that when you look at what has happened in the recent years, especially from COVID up to date, people are taking over positions. They are participating in these electoral positions. And I think we must not blame the youth. Maybe to a lesser extent, because of a few difficulties that are surrounding the youth. Only that Now the elders who are into these positions, when you look at some of the honorable members of parliament in Uganda today, they look at the youth number of people as mobilizers in the political season. Politics is coming very soon, I think tomorrow, because the next year. And these politicians will be looking at these young people for mobilizing for themselves voters. In the end, they are being deprived of their future. So if I was a youth today like I am now, I must not participate being used in that capacity. It is my time because we have very many of them who have studied. They have been to universities, they have been to institutions, they are equipped with the skills. You know what I'm talking about? So my notion of this sort of conversation is that youth leaders have in fact risen up to participate in these positions. However, it's not about taking these positions because the same man, John Maxwell, says that leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. However, if you go for these positions, it gives you the capacity to now influence some of these decisions. So I don't want to blame the youth because the leaders are there who are youth and they're doing their best. If we blame them, then we would nullify the fact that we do not have the ministers who are now youth. When you look at our own, Honorable Nyamutoro, when you look at Abel, when you look at Baram, he might not be the youth by that age, but he is very close to the youth. So how I would wish that other leaders at that national level, members of parliament, ministers, cabinet ministers, they go back to trace for these younger leaders who are having the same interest to mentor them. Because without mentorship, we cannot have the best leaders we desire tomorrow. At the end of the day, none of us is here to stay forever. So we have a short time. That's why when they ask you how old are you, you say I'm 23 years. You cannot say I'm 23 kilograms. Time. So I want to make it categorically clear that there should be a championship to ensure that we mentor these leaders. If they want to become a member of parliament, let one or two MPs identify that person in their area so that in case they are no longer serving in the parliament, they can take over. When you look at the current rope, he's very young. And perhaps his ideas are very fresh. And he understands in the contemporary or in the today's understanding. He knows how to use Twitter. And today we're in the information era where AI is taking over. In fact, sometimes I worry how our colleagues who are in the education sector are going to be teaching. Because if you want something, you simply type in that or the chat GPT or the AI and they give the answers. So we are in an era whereby these youth, fresh leaders must take over. We have some members of parliament who cannot use WhatsApp today. Recently, you saw they were being taught how to use their pads at parliament. Not because they are all of them, but we have some of them. So can we embark on ensuring that we train these younger leaders to take over these positions? Because we are going forward. The world is moving on. We are in the 21st century, in the first generation, where things must thrive.
Okay.
So that in this community, we can have each of us thrive on and on.
Well, Masi, Asimwe has mentioned something to do with leadership and then, voting and elections. If you can tell us, do we have a roadmap already for the youth leadership for 2026, or we are still living with the leaders that we elected in 2021?
Of course, for example, that question, for example, I'm a member of NRM. Apparently, as I talk right now, we don't have the roadmap yet.
Okay.
The roadmap yet, yeah.
Okay. And well, to our dear viewers, I'm seeing some comments coming along as well as we continue with our conversation here. And Asimwe, back to the patriotism bit of it.
Yes, sir.
Patriotism is a very crucial aspect of, our country and, the growth of nationalism. Today, we have so many young people who no longer love our country. And I'm saying this with, with further interactions I've experienced with some of them. Where do you think the issue is?
Perfect question. Number one, we have Ugandans who are allying themselves to political parties and they are diehards.
Okay.
And therefore, it is not easier for them to interact with other colleague members from other political parties. And at the Uganda Democracy Academy, we encourage a dialogue because we believe if it is a democracy, if it is moving further forward, everything must begin with a dialogue. That's why you have heard people say that if it is a war, it starts on a table and it ends on a table. Why? Because there is dialogue already. And so because of that, there are also people who are a little bit tribal. I don't expect leaders who are aspiring to say that I'm a proud Muchiga from Kabali. I'm a proud Mufumbira from Chisoro. That is a wrong perception. Do you know why? Because the world is moving on. We cannot identify ourselves as that tribal to the extent to believe there are no other tribes. I can say I'm a proud Ugandan. I think that makes sense. When you look in the days of the fight to independence, especially when you had those of Obote, when you have those of Patrice Lumumba, when you had mentioned them, these were younger leaders who were taking over without identifying themselves. I'm from Uganda. It was General Africa. When you look at the formation of OAU, when those of Kwame Nkrumah from Uganda, when Uganda got her independence in 1958, he was very clear that the independence of Uganda itself is not enough. That means if I am somewhere better, it is not true that the other people are also doing better. So the youth leaders and those around the communities must accept that we have these challenges which are still sitting on us, and therefore we cannot unite together if we still identify ourselves by nepotism, by tribalism, by having things that do not unite us. That's why today we are encouraging people to have discussions which bring everybody on the table. So that if I'm from Western Uganda, it is easier for me to rub shoulders with somebody from Western Nile, that I can even speak their language, 1 or 2, 3 statements. Why? Because we're looking at unity. Because you cannot have patriotism without unity.
Okay, and Masi, how do we foster this unity amongst our fellow youth? Because today when you realize many of them, okay, some of them, no longer have love for their country, and Asim has actually mentioned something very critical. Many are attached to political parties, and so that means if a political party says something, they follow. If it's the opposition, they will follow. If it's the ruling government, they will follow. And others are also attached to religious denominations here and there. If a pastor or if a reverend or if a father says something, they follow that. So at the end of the day, hate can easily be encrypted in them. So how do we bring them closer to the main cause of loving our country, Uganda?
Thank you. For that specific question, to me, I think we need to, as young leaders and leaders generally of this country, we need embrace intergenerational dialogue, where young people meet different people of different age, their peers, where they can share their experience, their knowledge, how they have made it in life. In that way, it helps a young person to have a different perspective about life. And what I can tell the young people of this country, that it doesn't matter the political party, because the issue that I face as an NRM person, or the person is the same issue the person faces in NRM or in FDC. So as young Ugandans, we need to put political parties aside and we embrace Uganda, we love our country, and in that process, we should be in position to defend our country, to love our country at every cost. So as young people or as Ugandans, we need to, to put aside the political parties aside, and we see what takes Uganda to the next step.
Okay, and there's a comment here, an interesting one, from Mosaic Kamba, who says, hope you are aware that the elders were once youth and know what is better for you or for the young people than the young people do. Youth are youth, and whatever is done by them is inclusive. He makes a comment that on a degree I won't agree with. I don't know if any of you does agree, but of course, it's an opinion that may not be agreeable, but again, a personal opinion. Who's here saying that the elders who are making decisions for us were once our age mates, or were once in our age. So they know what we are going through. And that means the decisions they make are for the better of us. Do you agree with that, Asimwe?
In a manner of contention, we have to agree that yes, there have been youth leaders before.
Okay.
But they are no longer youth. And perhaps there are things we go through, and these people are not aware. That's why I was giving an example of the current appointed people in the government, or those in other opposition, but they are youth in that kind of age bracket. But our advocacy is around including them. So if you are there and you are participating, yes, that was your time. Today we have people who have done land surveying and who are using now today GPS. But in those days there used to be that analog bit of it. So can we ask these people who are from the university, who are from these tertiary institutions, with the recent knowledge, because that's why you have also seen they have been reviewing the curriculum. Okay. That means the things they started by then, it is not the same quantity people are studying today. By then it was teacher-centered. Today it is learner-centered. So we are completely different, and we also have to accept the fact that the world has moved on. So perhaps the person's opinion, I will not really go far away from it, but we have to accept that we need to mentor these people
Okay.
Full stop.
Let me get to Mase. What are your last messages to our dear viewer, to the young people, as we are winding up with our conversation this morning?
What I can tell about young people, what we have been discussing, you see it is rotating about patriotism.
True.
What I can tell young people that patriotism, it is not just a pride, but it's about participation. As young person out there, it may not be about politics. Let's participate in affairs of this country in terms of economically, socially, and economically, so that we can put the Uganda to the next step. I thank you.
Okay, let me get to Mr. Asimu. What would be your parting shots as we are winding up with our conversation this morning?
Uganda is deprived of its future or its tomorrow if the young people are not included. And that's why the discussion has been very valid that we must have to include the youth. And to our youth leaders or our youth people, our young people who are there, it is imperative for you to take up the mantle. Time is now, there is no any other time. Those who are there, they took over by that time of our age. So let us stand up, style up, and step up for these opportunities that are available for us. Asantini.
All right. And of course, to our dear viewers and to all the young people out there, we should continue loving our country and remain patriotic. In situations where things are tough, we should be right behind our fellow young people, especially the youth leaders, as we continue to seek for different, for an inclusive Uganda, rather, for everybody. My two guests this morning was Asimwe Hafashimana, who is the President, Uganda Democracy Academy. Again, thank you very much for joining us, sir. And then also Masi Kanyesije, who is the Secretary for Legal Affairs at the National Youth Council. She has also been part of us. Thank you very much for joining us, ma'am. And to you, our dear viewer, for being part of this conversation. Now, coming up is Ruben Pima with sports here on GMU. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hustle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.